Welcome to RSA Conference. We're here recording live from Broadcast Alley in Moscone West. This interview is sponsored by Imperva. I'm your host, Akira Brand, and joining me today for this interview session is Erez Hasson, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Imperva. Welcome, Erez.
Thank you. It's super excited to be here. Looking forward to be talking to you today about some bots.
Yes, so bots are going to be our main topic of the day. I'm really excited to hear about how they're exploiting APIs and how much trouble they're causing for people and how Imperva is helping. But first, I'd like to hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So first, Erez Hasson, as you mentioned, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Imperva, a Thales company. I've been here for just over 8 years now, and for the past 4 years, I've been working on our bot management solution and our client-side protection solution.
Fabulous. And I want our listeners to know a little bit about Imperva as well. So can you tell me maybe a brief overview of the problems that Imperva aims to solve?
Absolutely. So we protect applications and APIs anywhere at a scale and with the highest ROI. So our application security platform solves for today's most sophisticated and advanced application security and API threats.
Fabulous. And it sounds like your primary customers are AppSec engineers?
AppSec engineers. Specifically, we're going to be talking a little bit about bot. Bot is an interesting topic because the user base for that, just the use cases, extend outside of the securities team. So that's very interesting. It touches on many different teams in the organization.
Oh, beautiful. And Imperva helps you manage all of that as well?
Absolutely. We address that, yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, well, I'm glad that Imperva is actually helping the cyber mindset spread beyond just the AppSec engineering teams. That's fabulous.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about bots.
Please.
So from what I understand, you yourself wrote a report called the 2024 Bad Bot Report. Tell us a little bit about what your findings were in that report.
Yeah, that is correct. I work on this report for the past 4 years, so this is the fourth one that I've done. Credit for our threat research team and our security analyst team that obviously provide me with a lot of data and insights, and I just kind of merged it all together in this informational piece that helps educate organizations about this threat of bots that I just mentioned is relevant across different functions in the organization. So this report is actually the 11th version of this report. So it's been 11 years that we've been tracking the trend of automated traffic on the internet, particularly bot attacks that target the application layer. So unlike network layer DDoS attacks, for example, obviously there are DDoS attacks on the application layer, but the more interesting use cases of bots such as scraping of data or account takeover attacks like credential stuffing and things like that. So this, yeah, as I said, it's the 11th version of the report. I have to say that each year I'm always surprised by the data that I'm seeing. I keep asking myself, are we gonna see the trend of bad bot traffic levels increasing stop at a certain point? But this is the 5th consecutive year that we have seen an increase in bad bot traffic levels.
So I want to know more about, we have this massive increase, it sounds like, of bots targeting APIs, doing things like credential stuffing, all kinds of problems it is causing. Do you think that the pace of cyber is keeping up with these bot attacks? And if so, how are they doing that?
Well, it's such a great question because bot management has been around for quite some years now. I mean, we've been tracking that for 11 years.
Right.
And I feel like it's a very common misconception to be hearing, no, we don't have a bot problem.
Everybody has a bot problem.
Everybody has a bot problem. It's just a matter of how much you care about it and how much it impacts your business. And then comes in the thing about what business functions are affected by the bot traffic to your organization. I would say every IT team should care about traffic that they don't want on their website because that's just additional infrastructure costs and strain.
Yes.
So that's one team that always cares about it regardless of the specific industry that they're at. But then you come into the more interesting use cases. Obviously, there's always a security use case because by definition, if you're stopping bot traffic, you're reducing the risk of attacks because essentially most, if not all, attacks are automated. So just by reducing the risk of bot traffic to your website, that is a significant security improvement. But then you get into the more interesting use cases like scraping or scalping, if you're familiar with that, which scalping is essentially if you've tried getting tickets to a very popular show, or have you
Yes.
tried getting, I don't know, very limited edition sneakers, for example. It's very
Yes.
difficult to get because, again, using automation, these bot operators are capable of beating legitimate humans, and that causes a lot of frustration. So there is an impact to the bottom line of the business. That's why it's so interesting, because an organization might come in and say, we don't have a bot problem, or like even if we do, we sold our inventory, like we don't care about it. But when it comes to users being very vocal and going online to Twitter or X nowadays or Reddit or
Yes.
something
Yes.
and just complaining about it, the amount of negative feedback and negative reputation that a business can have because of it is massive. So, yeah.
So, my question then for you is when is the tipping point for bots being just part of the cost of doing business to actually being something we should care about?
It's a great question. I think perhaps the biggest issue is if it's really overwhelming your infrastructure, and then it's just sort of like a denial of service effect on your website. So that is a bit of an aha moment for organizations. Obviously, not ideally, but a successful attack such an account takeover has significant damage. Unlike other attacks that have their damage, but this is a very direct damage that can be seen and felt when it's an account takeover and it's successful, and your users are locked out, and you're now in fraud claims and things like that. So that is another big one. And I think one thing that we're seeing now is another interesting topic is also the debate about the legality of web scraping, because of obviously the magic words AI and large language models that use scraping to teach those models on
Right.
how to interact with users afterwards. So there's a lot, it brought up the conversation about legality of web scraping, and we feel that more organizations today require to protect their proprietary data, because again, we're talking about something that's not illegal. I mean, I just went online a couple of days ago and I found a bunch of bots for hire, for purchasing sneakers, for rotating proxies to make it difficult to detect them.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's a kind of a clash between the legality of bots,
Exactly.
because bots are legal. I mean, it's just software on the internet.
Exactly.
Like, who cares? And then we have Imperva that's trying to stop bots before they become a problem. And then, of course, we have when something really becomes an issue, there's a breach or something like that. So how does Imperva guard against bots becoming a problem in the first place? Or how would you even recommend doing that separate from Imperva?
There's a bunch of recommendations that steps that you can take to reduce the risk or reduce bot traffic to your website. First, you need to identify risks, right? I mean, it's the very basic thing. You need to identify on your website what things bots can interact with that can cause risks. So if you have a login page, obviously you're going to be a target of an account takeover one way or another. And particularly if there's some interesting or valuable incentives behind your user accounts, like financial incentives, e-commerce websites where people save their credit card information or even their gift card balances.
Right.
So there's an incentive to target that. If you have product pages, it's going to be scraped for pricing or for other reasons. Even account creation endpoints, we've seen mass account creation by bots.
Right.
Yeah, because there's various reasons why bots would want to create massive amount of accounts. Part of it is if they want to commit fraud and kind of distribute that so that it's undetected.
Right.
Other things include, we've seen during COVID, bots create a lot of accounts on colleges to take advantage of COVID relief funds for students. That's something that we've seen.
Goodness.
Yeah. And then you can use them. Think of a website that gives you 20% off for your first purchase. Well, if you had a bot that can let you create a bunch of accounts that you could take advantage of it again and again.
Right.
There's a bunch of interesting things that hurt the bottom line of the business. This is why it extends beyond the security team, and you see much more personas having a say in the purchasing decision when it comes to bot management.
Tell me more about the different personas that are involved in this purchase decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I would say it depends on the organization and the pain points. We are seeing, for example, marketing teams taking more and more an active role in the purchasing decision because, again, marketing in the digital era relies on accurate analytics and data. And when you have bot traffic polluting that, it's very difficult to make informed business decisions on where do I put my money on, what campaign do I want to invest in, how do I know that this is actual organic traffic from the users that I want to be interacting with. So
Okay.
marketing is taking more of a place. E-commerce teams, when it comes to launching products and wanting to make sure that it's a fair playground for your users or your customers to be able to purchase
Yeah.
whatever it is you're launching that day, and that they don't go online and complain, hey, bots got everything, we didn't get anything.
Oh my gosh, I've been the victim of that myself when
You
I'm
have?
trying to find like good tickets to like Red Rocks Amphitheater or
Oh,
something.
Red
Oh
Rocks, yeah.
my god, it's a mess. So I'm glad that y'all are doing
Exactly.
something about
Yeah,
this.
Red Rocks is a good example of, I mean, other shows as well, but Red Rocks has a limited amount of seating in there. So
Yes.
there's a classic equation I like to bring up is that high demand with limited availability, it equals bot interest. And it goes across various industries.
High demand, limited availability.
Yeah.
Now, how, well, I'm curious how Imperva calculates that to guard against the bots, and then has there been a disconnect between what the bots themselves are doing, and how have y'all solved that problem?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the key elements of good bot management is being able to stop bad bots while not affecting the legitimate users in the process. So
Yes.
only filtering what needs to be filtered, reducing user interaction with captchas and things like that. So we have a bunch of transparent challenges that the user doesn't even see or interact with. Of course, some customers still have that conception that they want to rely on a captcha, and we leave that in the hands of a customer to decide on whether or not and under what condition to trigger the captcha. But our bot management has a multi-layered approach to detecting bots. So that includes from the higher level, because we have the application security platform at Imperva. So we get data from across the customer base, and if an attack has been seen on one customer, all customers immediately benefit from the remediation of that attack. And then we have a bunch of machine learning models. We have behavioral analysis, some fingerprinting techniques that essentially allow you to generate a very unique and specific fingerprint for each request.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I'd actually like to talk a little bit about what should organizations do, whether it's using Imperva or using a different tool, or maybe there's some secure by design things they can do. How would they protect their apps and APIs?
Yeah, great questions. As I said, the first thing is to identify the risks to your application, figure out what elements on your website can become the target of a bot attack that's seeking to abuse the business logic of that. And then the second thing would be to identify all the entry points. We live in an era where the web application is not it anymore. There's a bunch of APIs. The API usage is growing. API proliferation is a real thing. More and more organizations are implementing APIs. So identify those entry points, APIs, mobile applications, because they are direct pathways to that sensitive data in the application itself. So it's very important to identify those APIs specifically that handle sensitive information and that you know can be abused in order to benefit bot operators. There's the classic things about looking at the specific user agents. So obviously, if you see a browser version that's like 3 years old or something like that, you should probably blocking that. If it's 2 years, you can think about capturing it, for example. Obviously, look into unexplained spikes in traffic. That's a big one. If you see an abnormal behavior on your login endpoint or a specific API that you know, or API or website that you think is not right, then look into that. And then obviously look into identifying headless browsers. So look for actions that took place way too fast than a legitimate user would have been able to. Rate limiting, but again, all of these are things that can help you reduce the traffic from bad bots. But if you have a persistent bot problem, chances are they're going to come back tomorrow with a way to circumvent that. So it really comes down to having a solid bot management solution, like advanced bot protection from Imperva, and also having a bot management strategy that, as I just mentioned, this is a cross-functional concern for many organizations. So breaking down silos and working together with the different teams that have an interest in stopping these bot attacks and their impact is a big one to be doing. Maybe even first and foremost, identify those personas in your organization that it matters to and work together.
So my last question for you before we wrap up is, if I wanted to learn more about my bot strategy, does Imperva have resources that I could learn from?
Absolutely. So the 2024 Bad Bot report just went live. It's a big report. It's a 44-pager, but for a good reason. If you want to get some data from it, then just close it. That's fine. But if you want to be more educated on what even is a bot, what's a good bot, what is the difference between good and bad bots, for example, and a bunch of different use cases and how they impact each industry, there's all of that is in there, and it's a great educational piece to go and read.
Fabulous. All right, so all our listeners, definitely check out that bad bot report from Imperva. And thank you so much to
Thank you.
Erez. This has been a wonderful live broadcast. And to learn more about Imperva, visit securityweekly.com/ImpervaRSAC. Thank you again, Erez.
Thank you.